Chief Executive Officer of the National Aboriginal Capital Corporations Association, to present and to share his perspective.
My name is Shannin Metatawabin, Chief Executive. I'm one of 370 million Indigenous people in the world. I'm one of 38 million OECD Indigenous people that are part of your network. I come from a legacy and a people that have experienced a natural capital erosion to our territories due to colonization over the last 400 years. I come from a people that have a legacy of colonization that has excluded us from the economic ecosystem, that has created deep trauma and social inequity. Now is the time to change all that. Now is the time to reconcile. Now is the time to be inclusive of Indigenous people, to be part of the economic ecosystem, and to share in the prosperity of all nations. As was discussed in the workshop that followed the Global Thematic Report launched in July of this year, it's important to develop a long-lasting mechanism to ensure that the report has life beyond today. The Canadian Indigenous leaders gathered today believe that the OECD must convene a special body of Indigenous leaders and practitioners with a focus on ensuring relevant Indigenous perspective are embedded in the work of all OECD directors. We propose that the OECD host a platform for research and tools supporting Indigenous economic development, driven by Indigenous leaders and practitioners, that would allow for the sharing, the review, enhancement of good and leading practices to drive Indigenous economic development. As a next step, the governments of Canada and Australia have asked the OECD Secretary to provide a proposal for this platform. The Canadian Indigenous leaders gathered today believe that this mechanism should, at minimum, meet the following conditions. It needs to be led by a special body of Indigenous leaders. Indigenous communities must maintain the ownership and control and access and possession of the data that they share through the platform. Allow the ease and use of access by the Indigenous people. Ensure the platform is accessible by Indigenous youth. Focus on delivering benefits directly to Indigenous communities and people. And it should measure the implementation of this overall plan and allow for a face-to-face dialogue. The special body and platform will build on the momentum of this project and support the ideals of the United Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous People, specifically Article 5, that Indigenous people must have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinct political, legal, economic, social, and cultural institutions, while retaining the right to participate fully, so that if they so choose, in the political, economic, and social culture of the life of the state. I represent a network of 59 Indigenous financial institutions that provide loans to Indigenous peoples. And in the past 35 years that they've been doing this work, they started with $240 million and recycled it 15 times to provide $2.7 billion in lending to 48,000 loans. This is an example of success when Indigenous people are provided the opportunities to participate. And it's a good example for other member states to be inclusive and provide these type of services and opportunities to stimulate this economy. And it's important because of the OECD's platform on the world stage and your reputation and standard to be inclusive to Indigenous people. We hope that you will support the concept of this special body and platform, be patient with its development, and see the value in place-based approach to economic development that is aligned with the sustainability goals and the needs of Indigenous people.